Absentee owners. Absentee owners, a tremendous source of listings, again, when done properly. Number one, let's say that this may represent your recorder's tax roll. Over here is going to be the owner's address where they send the tax notification and the owner's name in this area here. And then over here is going to be an area where the address of the property is. This is your county recorder's roll, or your tax recorder's roll. Every few spaces in here, depending on the area, it will vary the number. You're going to see occasionally maybe every 8th property, maybe every 50th property. The higher up in price range you go, normally the less you'll get, will be these asterisks, this little symbol, and this indicates that there's no homeowner's exemption on that property. What you want to do is find these properties because the average home sells about every 4.5 years in most neighborhoods. But what we found is these properties here are turned over approximately every 2 years. So there's more turnover, change of ownership of these individual properties. How do we get a hold of them? If you're out knocking on doors and somebody comes to the door and says, oh, we're just renting here, if you say, could you please give me the address of the owner? They're going to tell you, no way. We've got to develop a way to get in touch with the owner. You could go and check the tax recorder's roll, and possibly they've got the new address of the owner. But if he's moved, like some of them have moved, I know we had some people in the Air Force that would rent their house out for a while. They'd move to Alabama, then they'd go overseas, and they'd come back. We have to find a way to travel these people around to find out where they are. The best way I found out to do this was to use a blank, plain white envelope, and on there I had a rubber stamp that I'd have imprinted this message, urgent, exclamation mark. The next line says, important papers enclosed, period. Third line, please forward to, last line, property owner, exclamation mark. I had a rubber stamp made, and I just used a red stamp pad. The size of the stamp itself is just about the actual size of a normal business card. The letters are in all caps. They're heavy and bold, and they stand maybe about 1/4 inch or a little bit better high. Now, it's got to be a blank envelope. Don't try doing it in a company letterhead stationery. And let's say, for an example, we go out this morning, we knock on doors, and somebody says, well, we're just renters here, and you want to get in touch with the owner of the property. If you send this letter to the renter to the best address, and that's what you do, is you send it to the best address that you have for the owner, wherever that might be, and you must send it first-class mail. Don't try sending a bunch of them bulk mail, because if you do, it won't work. On bulk mail, they'll send it to the address that you addressed it to. If they're not there, they do not forward it on bulk mail. So you have to send it first class and in a blank envelope. If you send this to the best address, and the best address you have is the address where the property is and it's rented already, and the renter gets this in the mail, and if it says the name of your company at the top, what's a good chance he might do with that? Tear it up and throw it away. If it's a blank envelope and he receives this in the mail, like we're doing here, it says urgent, important papers enclosed, please forward to property owner. Maybe it's something to do with the taxes on the house. I better get this forwarded to him. So then what we want the renter to do is to take and scratch out the address that you've used, and he probably knows the address, and he'll write in the address, drop it back in the mail, and the postman will forward it. Now, I've had them come back from Germany after going to 3 different places in the United States. Contacts coming back. Now that we've got the envelope there, would you like to know what to put in it? You should also type the name and address. Type it. Don't handwrite it. Here's a sample of your letter wording, and your letter wording should be handwritten. I recommend handwritten. Just simple. Mr. Jones, would you consider selling your property at, give the address, as an example, 2218 El Camino Avenue, to a client of mine, question mark, sincerely Roger Butcher, and put in 2 business cards. You may not get the listing right now, but if you continuously mail out 100 of these of the same area over and over again, you're going to start averaging 1 listing out of about every 100 properties that you're sending to every time you do a mailing. Can you do this yourself? You shouldn't. Have somebody do this for you. Again, you can hire a little gal for $1.50, $1.75, $2 maybe. to do all this for you. What we're doing here is showing you ways to multiply your efforts through other people. It's very important, let me make this note, that you do not use a return address on the envelope. All you're wanting is some feedback from the client. Let's say maybe he's in Germany and he sends me a note and says, yes, I'm interested in selling my property. What have I got? I've got a prospecting lead. Now maybe what you need to do is work up a comparative market analysis, maybe calling long distance, even if it takes $15. I'll bet you one thing, you're probably the only agent that did it. Let me give an example. There were about 3 duplexes in Sacramento that had expired. They were listed before, but they had expired. Nice properties. It came out on the computer that they had expired, and I did some research early that morning, had got the owner's name and phone number in Southern California by calling information in Los Angeles. I called the owner, explained to him who I was, what I was doing, and so forth. He says, Mr. Butcher, I appreciate your call, but I've already contacted another agent up there, and he has mailed the listing to me. But I do appreciate your interest in your call. About to hang up. I said, Mr. Seller, let me ask you a question. Is your interest in netting the most money possible? If there were a way that I could sell those properties and net you $2,000 to $3,000 more on each property than any other agent in Sacramento, would you give me a few minutes of your time? Well, what's he going to say? He says, where you been? I jumped on the plane. Well, first of all, I says, let me call you right back. So I hung up. I called the airlines. I said, what time is the next flight leaving Sacramento and what time does it arrive in L.A.? He lived just outside of the Los Angeles airport. I called the travel agency, got the information, called him back. I said, could you meet me at the airport? Would 3:30 be good or 4 o'clock be better? Because you see, I'm coming in on the 2:30 flight from Sacramento. He met me at the airport. We listed the properties. Went into the full dialogue, the presentation, the close, and everything. Beat his letter by about 12 hours from Sacramento. Get out and do some work. I can assure you, if you'll do something like that, you've got no competition. How many people are going to think enough to jump on the plane and fly someplace to talk with the owner? It was $40, $50 round-trip flight. My brokerage fee, I had my own company then, it was full brokerage. I don't know, someplace in the neighborhood of about $12,000 commission, because we double-ended some of them. So that's not too bad of an investment. One afternoon, how many would do that? You guys are greedy. Presentation, preparation. You have now obtained the lead. Let's say, for an example, we've done our prospecting, and we now have a lead. We've been out just knocking on doors. A lady says, well, as a matter of fact, there's some people over 2 blocks away on Campana Way. I think they're about 4 houses in from the corner, and I can't think of their name right off, but it's a black and white house. And we go over and we knock on the door, do our dialogue that I'll show you later. And the lady says, well, as a matter of fact, yes, we are. We just got orders to transfer, and we'll be putting our house on the market within the next few days. You have now obtained a qualified lead, either from your own prospecting, telephone canvassing, or whatever it is. We're going to talk now about what do we do to prepare for that appointment? What preparation is needed? When you first get the lead, obtain this basic information. Number of bedrooms, the number of baths, the garage size, the type of heat and air, and let's start asking a couple qualifying questions. What happens when you first come into the business? Everybody you talk to says, yes, we're looking for real estate. Everybody's looking for real estate if they can buy something that's worth 80, if they can get it for 50 or 20, wouldn't you say? So you get tied up with a bunch of buyers, and the same thing happens when you're listing real estate. A lot of people, they want to sell, but what you're going to do is look for the people that are qualified and motivated to sell. This is the people I want you to work on. So let's ask a couple qualifying questions. And another reason we do this is a lot of times you'll be out knocking on doors or whatever it might be and you're prospecting, and somebody will say, well, what do you think of that property? You know, how much could we get for it? And off the top of your head, you give a figure. 2 weeks later, you see a for sale sign on the property. Do not ever divulge a price. I don't care who it is, unless you've qualified them as being a good prospect, and then come back prepared with a full presentation. We're knocking on doors and somebody says, yes, we're thinking about selling our property. Where do you folks plan to move after we sell your home, or when we sell your home? Now see, there's kind of an alternative choice there. Number one, you're going to find out where they're going to move to. And number two, you've started putting in some positive input, haven't you? When we sell your home, or when we sell your house, whatever you feel comfortable there, or your property. And then another thing is, how soon had you thought of putting the property on the market? Now if they say tomorrow, do you want to come back in a week? Say no. Altogether, say no. You want to stick with them. Now, if they say probably in the next year or two, you want to work up a comparative market analysis right then? Of course not. So we have to qualify these people a little bit about what their needs are and what the urgency is. This is an important thing here. Don't be calling the sellers 2 or 3 times to obtain bits of information. I've seen new salespeople particularly, and even experienced people, they'll get a lead on somebody from referral or whatever it is. They'll call the people and say, how many bedrooms is it? Thank you, goodbye. And they'll hang up. They'll call back and how many baths is it? Thank you, hang up. Does this lend itself to competence? No. Be prepared when you go on the listing appointment. A couple things we need to do is when you go on your appointment, you're going to have 2 legal manila folders like this. You're going to have a legal manila folder number 1 with your business card glued to the top like this. Not stapled, not taped, but glued. It looks more permanent, more neat. And then your legal folder number 2, and you can get these little tags, adhesive back at any good stationery store. You're going to have typed on here the name, the phone number, and the address. And you may even want to put a little note on it like property management file for John and Mary Smith. Now, I've actually been on listing presentations and had this laying on the table and have one of the children walk up and say, Dad, look there, he's got our name and everything already written down. The kid just closed for you. Inside the one with the name on it, you're going to have your listing agreement or your cooperative service agreement filled out as much as possible when you go on your appointment. The only thing normally you should have to put in here, if you've previewed the property already, say for an example, it's a lady for sale by owner, preview the property and then make an appointment when the husband and wife both would be available. Then come back and then do your presentation. Come in with as much as this filled out as possible. Call the recorder's office, have their full name, the legal description, the parcel number, everything. The only thing really that you should have left on this, if it's your first appointment, is a description of the interior and the price and terms. What's the average length of time or normal length of time that you list properties in this area? What's 90 days? Who says? Huh?
6 months.
Yeah. Start taking them for at least 4 to 6 months. Have it written in here before you ever go on your presentation. Now, if you do a good presentation, are they going to squawk? Probably not. Most normally not. Not if you're good. Have your comparative market analysis filled out and accurate. You should know about the property, the taxes, exemptions, the lot size, the legal description, parcel number, the owner's legal name, initials and everything. You should know more about that property physically than the owners.